Happy Monday, everyone. Today is day 72. Our topic is power over nature. We're going to be looking at John chapter 2, 6, and Luke 8, where Jesus performs these miracles in which seem to be naturally impossible. So our first one here is John 2, 1 through 11. Jesus changes water into wine. The third day, there was a marriage in Cana of Galilee. Jesus' mother was there. Jesus was also invited with his disciples to the marriage. When the wine ran out, Jesus' mother said to him, "They have no wine." Jesus said to her, "Woman, what does that have to do with you and me? My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Whatever he says, do it." Now there were 6 pots of stones set there after the Jews' way of purifying, containing 2 or 3 metrics apiece. This would be a Jewish measuring system, right? Jesus said to them, "Fill the water pots with water." They filled them up to the brim. He said to them, "Now draw some out and take it to the ruler of the feast." So they took it. When the ruler of the feast tasted the water, now it became wine, and didn't know where it came from. But the servants who had drawn the water knew. The ruler of the feast called the bridegroom and said to him, "Everyone serves the good wine first, and when the guests have drunk freely, then that which is worse. But you have kept the good wine until now." This beginning of his signs Jesus did in Cana of Galilee and revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. So often people will ask, why was the first miracle Jesus did publicly, water into wine? Why did he change wine? That's interesting, right? Well, there's a lot of things going on here. One, his disciples believed in him after this, right? Like we should say, like they're like, man, this guy's for real. Like, we're coming along, we're kind of keeping our eyes open, or making sure this is all real. But they're like, whoa, that's legit right there, right? Also, remember, Jesus is invited to this wedding. And a wedding it's important in our culture, but in that culture, sometimes these things go on for days, and planning it right, there would be so much that would go into the family and the tradition and the honor of the event. So, running out of wine or not having enough food, that would be very shameful to host this type of event and not have planned for it. And so Jesus being invited there, and probably being a friend of whoever the wedding this was, really not only looked out for the person getting married, but for the host, right, who would have had much shame. So, but at the end of the day, we see that Jesus produces the best, right? He just didn't create wine, he created the best wine, and everyone was amazed. Jesus feeds the 5,000 now in Luke chapter 6. After these things, Jesus went away to the other side of the Sea of Galilee, which is also called the Sea of Tiberias. A great multitude followed him there because they saw his signs in which he did on those who were sick. Jesus went up into the mountain, and he sat there with his disciples. Now the Passover, the feast of the Jews, was at hand. Jesus, therefore, lifting up his eyes, seeing that a great multitude was coming to him, said, "Philip, where are we to buy bread, that these may eat?" This he said to test him, for he himself knew what he would do. Philip answered him, 200 denarii worth of bread is not sufficient for them, that every one of them may receive a little. So he's basically saying, even if we give him a little, it's not enough. One of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, said to him, "There is a boy here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish, but what are these among so many?" Jesus said, "Have the people sit down." Now there was much grass in that place, so the men sat down in a number of about 5,000. Jesus took the loaves, and having given thanks, he distributed to the disciples, and the disciples to those who were sitting down. Likewise, also of the fish, as much as they desired. When they were filled, he said to his disciples, "Gather up the broken pieces which are left over, that nothing be lost." So they gathered them up and filled 12 baskets with broken pieces from the 5 barley loaves which were left over by those who had eaten. When, therefore, the people saw the sign which Jesus did, they said, "This is truly a prophet who has come into the world." Jesus, therefore, perceiving that they were about to come and take him by force to make him king, withdrew again to the mountain by himself. So it's interesting there that Jesus sees what the Jews wanted out of him, to be the Messiah. Okay? We often think if the Jews rejected him as the Messiah. They didn't at first. No, not all of them at least. But what they wanted him to be their kind of Messiah, their king, to be ruler, to throw out Rome, and to establish Israel as a theocracy pure unto God without any Roman or outside influence. But Jesus withdrew because this was not his plan. That's what their mindset was. What's your mindset? What's my mindset? We all have mindsets of what we think God wants to accomplish in the world through us, or through his church, or through his people, or through Christ. And we got to make sure that our agendas are in line with God's agendas, because the Jews clearly thought they had God's best interest, or that they had the same mindset of God and wanted to establish, this is the Messiah, God, we're going to help you out, we're going to make him king. But that wasn't God's plan. God's plan was to send Christ to die for all mankind. This is something that just was not even in their thinking. And to establish a spiritual kingdom which would rule over the hearts and minds of all people in all the world. Again, completely foreign to their mindset. An interesting note here to me, though, is how many baskets were left over. So all the disciples, they were marveled, the people amazed, this is a true prophet, but there's 12 baskets left over. And I wonder, text doesn't say this, but I wonder, are there 12 baskets left over? Because he tells them to go collect the leftovers, and each one would have collected a basket full. And as they pick it up, they were seeing it in their hand, like, man, we got leftovers. What? We had 2 fish. And they're reminded of the miracle. They don't just see the miracle, they just don't hear the miracle. They don't say, like, well, what just happened there? They're seeing it, and they're reminded. Their faith is being just, nurtured and grown and giving them no reason to doubt. And even later, though they will doubt, which is crazy because of all they saw, we see Jesus brings them back again. But anyway, interesting point. But let's get to Luke chapter 8, verse 22 through 25. Jesus calms the storm. Now on one of those days, he entered into a boat, himself and his disciples, and he said to them, let's go over to the other side of the lake. So they launched out. But as they sailed, he fell asleep. A windstorm came down on the lake, and they were taking on dangerous amounts of water. They came to him and awoke, saying, Master, Master, we are dying. He awoke, and he rebuked the wind and the raging of the water, and they ceased, and it was calm. He said to them, where is your faith? Being afraid, they marveled, saying to one another, who is this then, that he commands even the winds and the water to obey him? And so what all these passages really show is Christ's power over nature. Mankind, if you really think about it, is completely susceptible to nature. Tornadoes, earthquakes, the sea. For people in this day, they couldn't fly places, so the sea was how you had to travel far, unless you took land routes. But if you're going to, most of the products are moved on ship because you could carry a lot, and they'd have to go fish. So the sea was a place where they believed that, and the ancients believed that's where the demonic spirits were. There was like chaos, and no one can control the sea. But Christ not only shows his power to turn water to wine, to multiply fish and loaves, food, the very essence and nature of what we need to survive, and what people throughout all human history have struggled to get enough to sustain themselves. And lastly, power over nature, over the winds, over the sea, over the creation itself. This is to manifest the glory and power of Christ, that he has the power of God. He has the power over creation. So this is, I think, a powerful testimony and why the gospel writers put this in there. Not just to say Jesus did these clever tricks, but to show his manifest power over the greatest of what mankind is susceptible to, nature itself. Let's look at these questions briefly. What did Jesus reveal about himself when he changed water into wine? Well, there's a lot we could say there. I think definitely his miraculous power, kind of what I, just going with what I said, what I just explained about his power over everything. But also, I think, revealing himself to his disciples of him truly being who he said he was. And we could probably answer some more things there, but let's go to number 2. What was the reaction of the people to the miracle of the multiplied bread and fish? They wanted to make him king. We talked about that, right? Why were the disciples terrified when they saw Jesus walking on the water? Again, power over nature, walking on water. They must have thought it was a spirit, a ghost, right? Because humans can't do that. 4, after the storm was calmed, what question did Jesus ask his disciples? Where is your faith? He keeps telling them, he keeps showing them miracles. He keeps saying, look, this is me, right? Don't marvel. This is what This is what I should be able to do if I'm claiming who I am, right? If I'm the true Messiah of God, if I have power over creation. And perhaps he hadn't fully revealed this to them yet, and I think that's probably the case. But he's trying to reveal to them, not just telling them by words, but manifesting it by action. Question 5, how did the disciples react to Jesus' control over the weather? They were astonished, right? They were afraid and saw that he had power over all creation. Whatever we're going through today, realize God has not only power over creation, can turn water into wine and bread and multiply it, and fish and loaves, but he has power to change your life, to change your situation, to change whatever you're going through. But we got to trust him. We have to have faith. Let us not be afraid. Let us turn to Christ. And the days might be long, and our prayers might have to endure, and we might have to go through trials and tribulations and storms, but let us continually pray without ceasing to God to meet our needs, because he has power over all. God bless. We'll see you guys tomorrow.